Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
What's up? Why's everybody panicking? We're still in first place. What's going on?
and Michael Reed.
How's everybody doing there? You guys called me in the middle of my torture chamber. I can already tell Winters is going to be super heated when he sees I didn't
Right.
use the thing that we set
You
up.
have a great background, but we're also joined by very special guest, Nick Akridge, the full analyst for Pro Football Focus. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Nick.
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. We have a lot to get into, Nick. There has been a lot of news regarding the Washington football team, and not very good news, you could say. First being that Ron Rivera kind of had a change of tune with Dwayne Haskins over the past 24 hours. I was saying this earlier on Twitter that we were talking saying, he's finishing his season. He'll finish his season, no doubt. And then all of a sudden today, that's up in question. So let me get your opinion on Dwayne Haskins. How did he look? How did he grade? And what was your opinion of Rivera's change of tune?
Yeah, so first off with Haskins, the shortest answer is it just hasn't been good. A lot of what we saw last year, some of the sort of minor flaws that we saw last year just kind of escalated to an extreme point this year. So far at PFF, we have him as the lowest graded quarterback in the entire NFL. Accuracy concerns, turnover-worthy play concerns, not enough big-time plays. It's just kind of all sort of came together at this last game, all of it at one time. It's hard to get into it. He looks, if we're going more of a technical side, his mechanics are just, everyone's probably seen his mechanics are just everywhere.
Yeah.
Mental side of the game, throughout the first two games at least, and last year, mental side of the game was good. He looks like he was making the right reads. He was just missing with accuracy.
Right. This
year, especially last game, the accuracy hasn't been there. And last game, the reads were just way off.
It was very, very bad. There was one play in particular that I saw. It was a 3rd and 2. They ran a bunch of stick routes, and Dwayne Haskins rolls out to his left right into pressure. And that you just cannot do that in this league. If you're going to do anything, slide right and keep your eyes downfield. And Dwayne Haskins just quite simply is not doing that. So that being said, let me ask you, Nick, can Dwayne Haskins turn this around? Do you think he's capable of doing that?
The homer in me says yes. The homer in me, of course, wants him to be able to turn it around. The PFF analyst in me is leaning towards no. One thing we sort of always look at with quarterbacks is their accuracy. In college, his accuracy was one of the best in college for sure. But these past 2 years, it's just been literally dead last in the NFL, accuracy-wise. And that's one thing that's probably the hardest thing to fix is accuracy.
Just stemming off of that, is this something that you guys saw with him in college at Ohio State? Did he struggle with his ball placement there as well, or is this something that just kind of started happening in the NFL?
No, not really. At Ohio State, he was, I believe, top 2, top 3 in adjusted completion percentage is what we had.
He looked good when I watched him.
Yeah, and it's just that's why it was so strange to see, and that's why I kind of thought last year was sort of maybe a blip with that. But we've seen it this year, and it's been even worse. A lot of people that I've seen on Twitter, a lot of QB analysts, experts, have talked mostly about his mechanics, how he's sort of flat-footed, how he's sort of jumping when he throws, and it's very strange, and it's clearly causing him to miss. But yeah, it's not really something we saw in college. It was probably his strongest part of his game was the accuracy.
Maybe it's a Markelle Fultz situation. Just forgot the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, let's say that Ron Rivera does decide to pull the plug and on Dwayne Haskins, the conversation's going to start. Is it Kyle Allen, or does Ron Rivera just, try to pull the miracle off and anoint Alex Smith as the starter, Nick?
Yeah, if we see Alex Smith on the field, I think that'd be a miracle. It's incredible what he's gone through and how he's sort of come back from it all. But it would be a miracle to see him on the field. I think it would be Kyle Allen next up. But for me, it doesn't really make sense sort of going to Kyle Allen. This whole year, what we saw or what we thought going into the year is this was going to be sort of a rebuilding year. It was going to see what you got, see who can make it, see who can play, see who we can carry on through the next couple of years. And it sort of is going that way. I know week 1, we sort of got off on a crazy win. No one really saw that coming. Of course,
thing that could have happened to us. Right.
Yeah, seriously, it might actually be. I mean, of course, as fans, we're like, yeah, of course that's going to happen. We're the football team. I almost said the other one. Um, so basically, it sort of kind of skewed how we sort of see this year. But basically, if you're Rivera and you're looking at Haskins, it honestly it can't get worse than Sunday. I mean, that was the worst game by far of his career. And if that keeps up, then yeah, I see why you would pull the plug, because that's completely inexcusable. But if you sort of see the growing pains like in the first two games, and you see that sort of play like he had last year, where he had those high moments, he had those misses with his accuracy that are just frustrating, but he was always making the right reads. And if you can see him sort of get back to that, then there's no reason not to keep playing Haskins throughout the whole year. I mean, if you're going to go with Kyle Allen, I mean, I don't think any of us think that Kyle Allen is going to be the face of the franchise, the quarterback of the future. And there's basically no need to play him without basically barring an injury, I guess. Essentially what you're doing is you're seeing if Haskins is the guy. And if you don't have the guy at quarterback or a franchise quarterback in this league, you're always going to be behind the top tier of teams. Just how it is. That's how important the quarterback position is. It's how it's always going to be, pretty much. And so at PFF, we've always sort of believed in doing everything to get that quarterback first. If you don't.
Oh, sorry. Looks like we might be missing
For
Nick.
me, keep going.
Keep going. Sorry, you went out right there. Sorry, Nick. Keep going.
Okay, so basically what I'm saying is, like, this year is see what Haskins has, and if he isn't the guy, then you're looking at somebody else next year, either drafting or free agency. I don't know what the free agents are like, but basically you just keep trying until you find the guy.
Right. And sticking on the offensive side of the ball, the one bright side of the side of the ball has been Terry McLaurin. Mm-hmm. Just wondering where you guys have him rated at, and where you kind of see him charted out at the end of the season.
Yeah, so last year, I think a lot of people have seen it, but his grade was the highest grade we've given to a rookie since
Odell.
Yeah. It's gotten off to a slower start the first 2 weeks. But he's still up there with a grade. He's 78.8. He's had a couple drops in the year, which is kind of the reason it's gone down a bit. But that's easily top 15, top 20 in the league. And I don't see him stopping. He just, if you're watching him, and even when he's not being targeted, he's just always open. Yeah. I mean, he's just one of the best route runners I've seen. At such a young age, it's ridiculous.
Right. I saw a statistic about his yards after catch that was just crazy. It was 11.4. That far and away the best. But who on this team maybe has surprised some people in terms of Pro Football Focus's analytics? Who's maybe playing better than some fans might expect? Is there anybody?
We've seen it. So on the offensive side, I would go with Morgan Moses.
Yes.
I know a lot of fans have always been hard on him. But one of the biggest things for offensive linemen is just sort of being there, I guess. It's just being available, which we haven't had very often. Being available and just being good enough. And that's kind of, in my opinion, what Morgan Moses has been throughout his career. A lot of low points, but he's always been there. You can't really say that for many other people. And this year he's been there and been a lot better than what he has in the past. I mean, he's been dominating in the run game. Pass blocking, he's given up a decent amount of pressures, but in the run game, he's been just mauling people. And it's just something great to see.
Yeah, and that being said, you just alluded to Morgan Moses. So this goes into my question before we switch on the other side of the football here, Nick. I hate this argument. It's the chicken or the egg argument for me. This goes back to RG3 and the Kirk Cousins days. Is it the O-line? Is it the lack of weapons? Or is it the quarterback's play? So let me ask you, from an analytic standpoint, is it Haskins' weapons around him, like a snowball effect, it making his play worse? Or is this kind of a thing where it's top down, it's Haskins that's the problem?
I think it starts with Haskins. I mean, I've always been a believer in him. Like I said, the homer in me wants him to obviously succeed. I've studied him deeper than I've studied any other quarterback, but I think it starts with him. And like I said before, this whole league is a quarterback league. It starts with the quarterback, and it goes from there. I mean, Haskins is, when he's making the right reads and he's just inaccurate. These guys are open. I mean, sure, the talent isn't there. Terry's always open, obviously. You don't have your number 2 receiver. Sims is kind of not really shown up. Tight end's always a question, but when he's targeting these guys, they are open. He's just missing them. And same with the O-line. I mean, Scott Turner's drawn up a lot of quick game concepts, a lot of quick routes, get the ball out of his hand quickly. They're there. He's just missing them. And it really sucks to see it. Sucks to say it, but I think it starts with Haskins. Obviously, that supporting cast isn't helping him by any stretch of the imagination. It's not helping him, but I don't think it's truly hurting him as much as some other people think.
Yeah. Well, that being said, let's switch this thing up and let's go on to the defense. The Washington football team lost two huge pieces of their defense in Chase Young and Matt Ionitis. Matt Ionitis actually tore his bicep, so he is now out for the season. So, Nick, I got to ask you, is this panic mode right now for Washington football team fans, or do they have enough in the arsenal to be able to help replace Matt Ionitis?
I think as awful as injuries are, I think this was the one group on the team where you could sort of see an injury like this happen and still sort of be good as normal. Matt Ionitis is one of my favorite players on this team. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL. He's probably our best interior pass rusher. He's one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. But I think when you have Daron Payne and you have John Allen and you have Tim Settle, who it doesn't really get talked about very often, but he is – whenever he's come in and he's played limited snaps, he's always graded well at PFF. I know a lot of people are fans of his. He just doesn't get playing time because of the three people in front of him. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a miss. You're going to need to see Payne and Allen step up in the pass rushing area. But I think that was the one area of the team where you could see that sort of injury and sort of keep moving on as normal.
Now, I asked you before we started recording, Nick, if you could pull up a stat for me, because I wanted to know this, the impact of Matt Ionitis when he's on or off the field. Do you have that stat for me?
So basically, I when I was looking at that, I was looking at sort of pressures, how pressures, and I've always been a fan of getting pressure, and I don't think sacks are a way to sort of judge these guys. I think pressures are almost as important as sacks. And Matt Ionitis has far and away been the one guy who gets the most pressures on the quarterback from the interior, that is to say. And right now he's had 8 pressures on the year, and that was without pretty much playing this third game. And that was one less than Jonathan Allen, who's got 9 right now. So if you're looking at it when he's on or off the field, right now it doesn't look to be that big of a difference because Jonathan Allen has stepped up in a huge way in pass rush. He's already at 9 pressures now. Yeah. I don't think he's really gotten off to that fast of a start before in his career. He had 33 pressures last year, 36 in 2018. So he's on track to kind of blow right past that. So that's sort of an area of kind of where he's on or off the field. It doesn't really make that much of a difference because John Allen stepped up.
Obviously, we lost another key player on the defensive line. Chase Young, there's not really a kind of a ruling on how long he'll be out. And obviously you can't really replace a superstar kind of talent like that. But what are some of the things that the team can do to kind of replace him as far as, just like you said, with Matt Ionitis?
Yeah, so again, Chase Young is – I think Chase Young is a bigger of a loss than Matt Ionitis because you have the 2 guys behind him, like I mentioned, with Allen and Payne. I've always been a huge fan of Kerrigan. I still think he can produce at a top level. But Montez Sweat really needs to step up now. And we saw it last week. He played really well last week. And so if he can keep that sort of performance going, you won't see that much of a dip with Chase Young. But the thing with Chase Young is he's not just affecting it with pressures and sacks. He's affecting it with how the offensive line has to block him. And you just simply don't see that. They don't fear Montez Sweat and Ryan Kerrigan as much as they do Chase Young, which is wild to say from a guy who's
already
played 2 1/4 games.
9 quarters.
To Ryan Kerrigan, the all-time sack leader, right?
And it's just wild the type of production he instantly had, and of course fans go crazy for him. But I think it'll be hard to sort of match that again. We don't really know. I haven't really seen any sort of ruling on how long he's going to be out for. But yeah, it's sort of hard to replace his kind of production and impact on the field.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody out there that would agree that would disagree with you, Nick. Now, before we let you go, I got one last question for you. Your biggest concern for the team right now, either analytics side or just as a fan, what's your biggest concern heading into the rest of the season?
QB. I mean, I've said it the whole time.
Yeah.
It's a QB league, man, and this defense has been good enough. I mean, I think if you have competent QB play, I think you could be sitting at maybe a 2-1 sort of team right now. And I think if you get competent QB play, this could be a 500 team the way this defense is played. But you're just simply not getting that. And it's just, I mean, we saw last week the 3 picks instantly led to 21 points. And as good as your defense is going to be, you're just not going to stop that.
Yeah.
So I think it's got to be QB all the way.
Absolutely. I think I would agree with you there, Nick. I don't think the Mikes would either, would disagree either. Nick, I really do appreciate you taking the time out and coming on with us and giving us the analytics side of this whole football nonsense that we're dealing with right now. Because, look, it seems like if you go by Twitter, Washington Football Team Twitter is up in riots the past 2 days with all the news coming out. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us some sort of clarity.
Yeah. Of course, guys. Appreciate
you.
Absolutely, Nick. You have a great night.
All right, you do.
Bye, brother. All right, everybody.
One thing he said that totally makes sense is that people got to realize this is a rebuilding year. And he's right, man. I feel like that first game of the season really, really, really was one of the worst things that could have happened, man. Got all of our hopes way up. And we're just not that talented.
It's funny because I was talking to Wole, our former guest that we had on, and he asked, he was like, let me ask you a question. What's the Washington Football Team identity right now? And I thought about it, and I was like, he's right. They don't have one. They had one after week 1, but then
right, but
after week 1, it was done.
Yeah, right.
That's really actually a really good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Now, that being said, everybody, before we go on a tangent, I want to give you guys a little bit of an update of what we're going to be doing here for the rest of the episode. We're going to have a presidential MVP vote, who we think, because of all the talk with the presidential debate and all that stuff, who we think one by one we cast a vote for to be MVP so far this season. And then we're going to talk about, because my father-in-law, he has told me multiple times he wants us to talk about this topic. And for you, Colonel, we're going to do that for you tonight. Should the Washington Football Team tank for Trevor Lawrence? That we're going to talk about that. Is it panic time for Haskins? And the reactions to the loss. So that being said, let's rope it around and go with reactions from the loss. Let's go to you, Hall. I didn't get to talk to you and kind of gauge your mindset with that game on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I was down in Delaware, hanging out with the girlfriend and had the game on NFL Live through the Fantasy app. You can watch the live local game. So I watched a little bit on the TV as well. But needless to say,
TV.
The television. But needless to say, just like Nick had said, this defense has played good enough. And I actually agree with that. I think the defense played good enough on Sunday to actually not only keep us in the game, but win the game if, like Nick just said, if there was any type of competent quarterback play. Obviously, 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions by Dwayne Haskins leads to 21 points. I mean, you take away 2 of those interceptions and only 1 leads to points. We're right back in the game right there as it is. And so, yeah, it was definitely disappointing. I thought that they definitely had a great shot to win that game. And just coming out of the breaks, the offense was humming. Offense was looking good. Defense was getting some stops. And it just all snowballed and went downhill from there. And, yeah, it was definitely a disappointing loss. And, I mean, we got the Ravens coming up this week. So, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a double disappointing loss.
Yeah, you're not lying there, Hall. Now, I went and looked at the box score after the game, and it's actually insane. If you look at the stats, the Washington Football Team, the Browns, are almost mirror images of each other offensively down the list, but the only discrepancy is the turnovers. I said it on Sunday on the reaction pod with Ian Bacon. The turnovers was the biggest difference. And as much as we want to kill everyone else on the team, the fact is the defense cannot be on the field for that long against that offensive line that is incredibly good at running the football. We talked about it all last week. They're one of the best rated offensive lines running the football by Pro Football Focus. So the fact is, they could not be on the field for that long, and they were because of the turnovers. And it sucks to see because you had, like we talked about, you had confidence out of that week 1, and week 2 you were sitting here saying, all right, maybe that was just the muff punt and the fumbles and stuff like that. And then this game was kind of like, whoa, there is a problem here. We just saw Joe Burrow a week ago on Thursday Night Football shred this defense seemed like for no reason, for no effort at all, and then Dwayne is struggling to just get the ball down the field.
Yeah, and you're 100% right about that. I do think that maybe it could have been a little bit different had we had two of our best defenders the entire game, Matt Ionitis and Chase Young. Maybe the defense could have done a little bit more, but like you guys have said, they can only do so much. There's literally only so much you can do when an offense just isn't getting any first downs. They're keeping you on the field, and they're turning the ball over like that. Dwayne Haskins should have had way more than 3 interceptions. He should have had at least 5. The first one, which was, by the way, probably the play of the game for us, by Isaiah Wright, where he dove and punched the ball out of Denzel Ward's hands. That should have been picked. And right then, you could just kind of see Dwayne didn't look comfortable at all. Just the way he was throwing the ball. I remember it was like his first throw to Terry McLaurin or whatever that was incomplete on that first drive. I think he just kind of half-assed, sidearmed it, flat-footed, just kind of winged it. And you saw him do that a few times. And it was just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. You really have an opportunity here. And then, like you said, you get behind early. You can't do that against this team. Or I'm sorry, you get behind at any point. You can't really do that against this team because eventually their running game is just going to grind you down. And that's what they did. And it's scary.
Yeah, and absolutely. And look, whenever you have guys that talk about the quarterback position, the one thing they say is you cannot miss high in the middle of the field.
No, right.
8 times out of 10, that is going to be a picked ball.
It's 4 out of 5.
Not only did I miss that, what did I say, 8 out of 10?
8 out of 10.
Yeah,
you reduce it, and then put it in simple.
It's cool. But that being said, that one interception I thought was a glaring issue because it's in the Cleveland Browns territory. You're moving the football. It's a long third down. The worst thing that could happen to you there, Dwayne, is you get a sack, and guess what? We have the best accurate punter in the game that could put that ball within the 5-yard line. Do not put that ball deep in double coverage. Why on earth are you making that throw? There's such stupid throws that are happening, and I don't mean to call them stupid, but it's just like the one play that I talked about where he doesn't even read the defense. You know, you can see the Browns are in man, and Terry's guy is lining up 8 yards off of him, and you're running a stick route with Terry on 3rd and 2, and he's 8 yards off playing man. You know he's going to have that open. Stand in the pocket, wait for that to develop, and fire that ball in there. Instead, he just dips out left into pressure, keeps his head down, and gets sacked. That is like that. We talked about there is a bottom tier, there is a pedestal you have to reach to play a quarterback position in this league. Yeah. That's one of them. It just showed he was confused. It just showed he was playing confused, in my opinion, and that was so frustrating.
And like Nick had said, it's almost just like a culmination of things. Like literally the week before that, I remember sitting on here and saying, well, at least Dwayne hasn't really turned the ball over. You know, like he hasn't done that good, but like at least he's been very careful with the ball he's thrown. What was it, 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions as a starter, something like that. And then all of a sudden this game, it was just like he just didn't care. It was just like everything just snowballed and got worse. Like the Giants game. It's like once you started throwing those picks, then it was just like he's just going to keep throwing them. He doesn't give a shit anymore.
And like Dan Orlovsky actually came out with something last week after the Cardinals game. And he's like, I'm going to do something every week where I talk about, I break down the young quarterbacks. And he pretty much said that Dwayne had looked like he was coming out and lining up at the offensive set and kind of reading the defense pre-snap, which obviously is great, and kind of predetermining like, okay, I'm going to get this look. I should have this guy open at this spot.
Very bad, right?
And which is good. I'm glad you're doing that. But once he hikes the ball and everything starts moving fast, it's kind of like
changes.
He's not diagnosing the new defense and the new what's in front of him.
Yeah.
And that's where the problems will come in. I feel like where when he reads the defense pre-snap and they actually stick to that defensive coverage, he's in rhythm. Everything looks fine. You're like, that's what an NFL quarterback can look like. Yep. If he does that every single play or 8 out of every 10 plays, we have something there.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5 plays later, or the next 4 to 5 plays, he drops back and he's like you say, he looks confused. And I think he's like, again, I said, he's not diagnosing the after snap defense, and he's just kind of panicking and still going with his predetermined pre-snap read, which is again in second or double triple coverage. And here's where the turnovers come in, and that's what happened in Cleveland.
Right, and also one thing that Ron Rivera had said prior that I think is also important is it's not that he's staring down receivers and not going through his reads. It's that he might be going through some of them too quick. It's like you need to just slow down, take your time, go through this, let the play develop. People are supposed to get open at certain times, at certain points, and you're just going through. All right, he's not open, he's not, and then all of a sudden you're put yourself in a bad spot.
So Yeah, so essentially to try to give you guys a better idea of what Reed is talking about with the reads and being too fast. So imagine when a quarterback, when they see a defense at every read, you have a first read, and you imagine you're taking a snapshot picture like this. You're looking for a certain thing. When you do this, you're looking for the jersey. You're looking for some sort of discrepancy, right? So when you're going through your reads, you do 1, you do 2, you do 3. It's like this, right? But what's happening is that when Dwayne is going through that read, he's doing it too fast like this. So what's happening is he's doing that read, and then he's doing this, and that read is not ready until then. And he's going to his third.
Right.
And is what essentially is what Ron is alluding to. And it's just him he knows the end goal. It's just getting to that end goal. It's like it's a mathematical equation. He knows the answer. He just has to know how to figure out the equation.
You have to figure out the formula.
The formula, you're right.
But also, Kyle, don't put words in my mouth because no, I'm just kidding. You explained that perfectly. That's exactly, you're 100% right. He's from what it sounds like is he might be doing some things right. It just he has the answer. He just can't get there. That's why in math class they always tell you show your work. We want to see that you didn't just use a calculator, that you didn't just get this predetermined. Dwayne is using a calculator right now to read defenses.
Yeah. And the funny, I do want to give credit to Scott Turner. I thought he called a very good game. Getting AGG involved early with that end around was beautiful. He took a big lick at the end of that call, and then Isaiah Wright showing that he could possibly be the Steve Sims of this year.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of Steve Sims, I was listening to Grant and Danny, and this guy came on. He had a bunch of analytic stats that he had broken down. Probably just got off the internet, honestly.
He probably sold from Nick.
Yeah, he probably did. But they said that the last 4 games of the season, Steve Sims was in the offense 70% of the snaps. He had like 40 targets with 25 catches and whatever kind of yards, 4 touchdowns. I might have been off with the catches and all that stuff, but somewhere around there. Whoa, chill, bro. And then this year, it's kind of like he's just been disappeared. He's not even being used in the offense. He's only been targeted 8 times this year with 6 catches for like 89 yards, no touchdowns. And it's kind of like people kind of expected Steve Sims to be that next kind of, not the next guy up at the second guy receiver, but kind of that inside slot receiver,
security
that safety
blanket type,
security kind of safety valve kind of, if I have a quick option, Steve Sims. And for him to not even be involved in the offense so far is kind of puzzling to me.
But instead, Dwayne has said, "Oh my God, Terry McLaurin and Steven Sims are open. Let me just throw it to Logan Thomas, who's triple covered right
here." That was the other stat he had. 2 years. Logan Thomas has 24 targets. He has 3 times the amount of targets.
Did you see that
Sims has right now?
The Logan Thomas thing that got progressively worse. It was like Logan Thomas has been targeted this many times among tight ends, first in the NFL. He has this many catches among tight ends, second in the NFL. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then it was fantasy points, 17th in the NFL.
It's bad.
Anyway,
and that's not
you
all.
guys should hear the other person tell it.
Look, it's not all of Dwayne's fault. I don't want to pile on Dwayne too much. But I said this last week on Twitter. I said it earlier. Look, there's 2 types of men in this world. There's guys that make shit happen, and there's guys who make excuses for why shit didn't happen. And I'm tired of sitting here and kissing ass to somebody who keeps making excuses. And the first one being is immediately following that game, Dwayne goes on Instagram and essentially says Wi-Fi is free, so everyone has an opinion. That was his. Wi-Fi isn't free, dude. First off, and secondly, you need to stop coming. Stop
it
coming
at steal your neighbors.
Right, stop coming at us, dude. Like, you had a terrible game. Like, just Sam Darnold had a terrible game. You know what he did? He went on the press conference and said, "I didn't play well enough to help my team win. So I got to play better." Is that what
literally said? I didn't play like an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, is that what Dwayne said?
What Sam Darnold said.
Dwayne sat here and said, "You guys are coming after me. Just wait and see." Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're taking it by the horns,
We've been waiting.
Dude. But that being said, let's keep it with the Dwayne Haskins talk right now. The panic meter for Dwayne Haskins. Ron Rivera, like I said with Nick, past 24 hours, we've seen a very, very abrupt change in his mindset and saying, look, I have a cutoff point. And I understand what he means by that. And so let me go to you, Hall. How surprised were you to hear that? And 2, where do you think that cutoff point is?
I was actually pretty surprised because I've been one of the proponents of let Dwayne ride the whole year out. I mean, obviously, in my opinion, only 2 good things are going to come of it. Well, 2 good things will come of it. You let him ride it out the whole year. Let him play all 16 games, obviously barring some type of injury, unless it gets like dramatically really, really, really bad. He's just turning the ball over at an alarming rate, aka last week. But so let him ride it all 16 games, and you either see if he's the guy can turn it around, or if he doesn't turn into the guy, guess what? You're in that top 3 to 5 spot picking next year, and you're probably going to snag one of the top 3 quarterbacks anyway. So either way you look at it, we'll be sitting going forward with, hey, maybe we've got our guy, or we'll be picking our guy again next year. That's the way I look at it. So my panic meter is about a 5 because just like Nick alluded to, everyone knows Kyle Allen is not the future. And obviously with the NFC least being as bad as it is right now, we're in first place. We're in first place right now. So like I said, I don't know why everyone's panicking. But at the same time, it's like we need to just accept the fact this is a rebuild, and obviously I would love to make the playoffs, but I don't really want to be that 8-8, 9-17 that makes the playoffs this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'd rather just rebuild, see what we got, and then next year be that 10-6, 11-5 team.
No, absolutely not. I am not for that at all. I was completely surprised, Hall. I'm just like you, completely taken back by it because, we've heard Ron Rivera have Dwayne Haskins' back from the start. All of a sudden he's talking about a cutoff point. This isn't just media just putting up conspiracy theories, trying to inflame something that's not there. Ron Rivera talked about this publicly, which means there's some actual momentum behind it, and that is very worrisome for Dwayne Haskins. It almost seems like Ron Rivera tried the easy love. He was like, you're my dude. And now after that game on Sunday, he's like, no, tough love now. I'm getting on you. I put this on you. Now it's for you to respond. And I really hope Dwayne responds in a big way on Sunday. That being said, I think that people are going after Kyle Allen a little bit too much. Look, is he better than Dwayne? I don't think so by any stretch. But if I'm sitting there with an intelligent football mind who has a good offense, and is he sitting there telling me, look, I need an Alex Smith, and Dwayne Haskins isn't even getting me Alex Smith. Kyle Allen can get me Alex Smith. He might turn over the football a little bit more, but he'll at least take care of the football and hit the checkdowns. If he can do that, that's better than what's being produced right now. And look, if I'm sitting there, I'm not going to argue with Scott Turner over that. And that's where I feel like Ron Rivera is right now. That's where he's saying that's where my cutoff point is that at one point this is going to happen. If I'm going to make the move, that's probably who I'm going to go with. That being said, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world to bench Haskins. He has a 4-year contract with a 5th-year option. For very little money, you can keep for a long time. Kirk Cousins was benched by Jay Gruden for multiple games, and Kirk Cousins said himself that benching helped him project his career because he went to a QB coach. He redid all of his mechanics. He relearned the quarterback position. Then he came back and all of a sudden lit fire with the Washington football team, and now is getting paid $80 million to lose football games. So
I was just going to say, how did that turn out for him?
But also, though, at the same time, though, is Dwayne Kirk Cousins, personality-wise? Would Dwayne respond that way? I don't know, because Dwayne also was supposed to have hired a bunch of people this offseason, and they're supposed to be doing so much work, and so far it hasn't shown. But I'm kind of in the same thing. Maybe it would be the best thing for him, though. Who knows?
I'm just saying, like, that's one possibility. Like, I just don't think – I'm just sitting here thinking that if he does get benched at any point, I'm just saying I don't think it's the end-all be-all in D.C. is what my point is.
Okay. Right. I'm kind of right where Hall is. I feel I'm kind of under the impression that unless it's like drastically bad, you kind of just ride it out with Dwayne. And like, let's not forget how inexperienced the guy is. He's got a lot to learn. He has physical tools for days, like a strong arm and stuff. But he's very raw. He only started 1 year at Ohio State. He's started 10 games now in the NFL, and he needs to get better. He's just not there yet. He's not a good NFL quarterback.
I'm telling you, Ron Rivera understands this too. You cannot go into that locker room and tell them I am okay with losing these football games with the division up for grabs.
100%.
Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne are looking back and saying,
no. Yeah,
we're winning. We're winning.
I'll say this, though, before you continue, my bad. Kyle Allen turned the ball over. Yes, he was 5-0 his first 5 starts. Once people kind of figured him out and see what was going on, he turned the ball over like 16 times, whatever.
Yeah, he had the crazy.
Oh no, 150%. Yeah, I know.
For a guy that knows the offense and was supposed to come in and blah blah blah, from all accounts, he was the worst quarterback in all of training camp on the roster. Right. So I mean, are we really going to get better play?
Yeah.
Because he knows the offense better than Dwayne.
Right.
We're really going to get better play out of Kyle Allen. That's my thing.
And yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. If they're in a position to where they could actually win some games, but I don't think if Dwayne's playing bad, I don't think that they will be. I think that this season, honestly, like Nick said, before the season, before that Eagles
I'd be
game,
willing to bet Kyle Allen could hit a 4-yard screen pass.
I was always kind of under the impression that this year was kind of for Ron Rivera to see what he had at different positions, and then we kind of take it from there. And this rebuild would be a little bit tough. But obviously, Ron Rivera, something happened where either Ron Rivera confronted Dwayne for him to change his tune. Either he talked to Dwayne about it, and Dwayne didn't respond the way that Rivera wanted him to respond. So Rivera's like, you know what? All right, fine. Then we could bench you. If you keep this shit up, then we're going to bench you. Or you went back and watched the film and was like, that cannot happen. That's inexcusable. I don't care if we're supposed to lose at the rest of the game and tank for Trevor, whatever. That's completely inexcusable. That can't happen. So I think that Ron Rivera, Kyle, also, like you said, is just kind of like at this point, all right, I've kind of buddied with you. Now it's time. You need to put your ass out there and you need to play football and you need to play at a decent level or else you're out of here and I have no emotional attachment to you.
Yeah, and look, and the thing is, like, I know we all want to sit here and talk about, like, potential. And I think Dwayne has the potential to get
That's
it
just
done.
why I'm saying you should start him the whole season unless he's turning the ball over 3 times.
I do think he has potential, but Danny brought up a great point. Ron Rivera kind of had it easier back in Carolina because Cam Newton threw for 400 yards in his first 2 games as a pro. Right. Dwayne has not had a single game like that where he kind of blew you away, was like, yes, he belongs in this league. You know, you can only point to one play here or there. It isn't like a game. And that's where this is, like, really weird for me because, like you said, Reed, there had to be a drastic change in Ron's feeling. And that's where I'm kind of sitting here saying he's like, the division is up for grabs, and this dude is single-handedly sabotaging wins. Yeah. And we cannot allow that to happen. And look, I know we all want to talk about a rebuild, but I truly believe that you can rebuild and still win football games. I 150 believe that in my heart. I believe that can happen.
That's why I'm so torn. Yeah. That's why I'm so torn because I'm like you said, the division up for grab. The NFC East is horrible right now. Yeah. So I mean, at this point, it's really coming down to us in Dallas. So it's like it's up for grabs, and like you said, those guys in the locker room are going to be looking Ron sideways, like, bro, like, we're doing our part. What's good? Right. So that's why I'm so torn because I'm just like, and I don't want Kyle Allen to come in because I know how horrible he is. But at the same time, I've seen Dwayne how horrible he was on this. I'm just like,
But that's also why it can be so frustrating because to be a consistent winner and a good team consistently, you need good quarterback play. And if you're not getting it and you're still finding ways to win, like you see a team like that almost every single year where it's like they'll stumble their way into the playoffs and it was just kind of like a 1-year fluke. Like you need a quarterback in order to win football games. So if he's not that guy, you got to figure out a way to get one. I don't know. Well, I don't know what they would do. I don't know. That might bring us to our next point. I don't know.
The bad thing is these next 2 weeks we're kind of expected to lose. So it's kind of like if Dwayne comes out and plays horribly, it's kind of like, well,
who do we play after the Ravens?
The Rams. So it's kind of like we play 2 really, really good and tough defenses. So it's kind of like if he comes out and plays horrible, it's like, well, he was expected to do that.
So
it's kind of like how can we evaluate? And you know what's crazy about that? I know we're going to talk about it more Thursday, but these are the type of games where the Redskins or Washington comes out and randomly plays so unbelievably well, and somehow, some way, and I'm not going to say they're going to pull the win out, but like.
No, but they play them a lot better than it's not going to be 70-5. Like.
Exactly. So I mean, we'll talk about that on Thursday, but
yeah, I'm right there with you. Now that being said, let's bring this around to Colonel Time. He wants us to debate. The presidential debate is tonight, so let's have our own little debate here, fellas. Should the Washington football team consider tanking for Trevor Lawrence or any quarterback, Trey Lance, whatever? Should they consider losing as much as possible to get a higher draft position? Hall?
No. Like we just alluded to in the last little part, you can't go into that locker room and look those guys in the eye and say, hey, chill. You can't go in the locker room and look
He's like, Dad, you're wrong.
I thought that's what you can't go into the locker room and say. I thought you can't go to the locker room and say, hey, chill.
You can't go in there, look those guys in the eyes and say, my bad, guys. Like, you know, this is just, we'll see what we got this year. But next year, we're going to have our guy at quarterback and we'll be good. When we just alluded to, we're at first place in the division. The division is pretty much up for grabs at this point. Philly's out of it. New York's out of it right now. It's just us and Dallas. And so it's kind of like a double-edged sword where it's like we need to rebuild, but at the same time, we got to win games because we can sneak into the playoffs, especially with the extra team format that just got included this year. So, yeah, I don't really want. And then also, again, guys that like are used to winning, like Chase Young, John Allen, Deron Payne in college, they're not going to want to lose just to maybe get a guy.
That's what I'm
Who
saying.
knows? Who knows though? Like the next guy can come in, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, whoever it is. They could be just as bad as Dwayne when they transition from college to NFL. So I just see go out, play as hard as you can, win as many games as possible, and if we play like we're supposed to, we'll sneak into the playoffs. If we're not, we'll be right there to pick a quarterback anyway. So.
Yeah, look at the Browns. They tanked for Baker. Look at them.
So
all right, Reed.
So just for sake of good material for our podcast, I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to say yes. I don't really feel this way, but I think I mean, if you can tank and you can get a Trevor Lawrence, let's set the stage here. This is by all means a pretty good quarterback class at the top 3. I know every year it always seems like that, but Trevor Lawrence is a rare prospect. Justin Fields has the ability to be a rare prospect. He's still pretty good, as does Trey Lance. Those are 3 guys that you could really win with. And look, I know that we have so many other holes on the roster, like the left side of the offensive line has played very bad, but there's some other teams out there that have won consistently as long as they have a good quarterback in spot with a bad offensive line. The Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson. Yep. You know, you have Cam Newton's Panthers back in the day. The Atlanta Falcons, then Deshaun Watson in the early days before the 2019 season with the Texans. Yeah, Andrew Luck with the Colts back then. They still found a way to win. So if you can get that quarterback, if you can get that guy, even the Chiefs don't have the best offensive line. I mean, they have the best right tackle in the NFL, but other than that, I mean,
they got a bunch of Morgan Moseses.
Yeah, if you have that guy behind center that can make plays, all of a sudden it's going to be a lot easier for everybody else out there. They're going to look a lot better too. So I'm going to go with yes, just because I want to see Trevor Lawrence out there. And let's be real quick. I know somebody out there said that Justin Herbert, how can he come out here and look good when he's a rookie and Dwayne hasn't looked that good? Justin Herbert also started 43 games in college compared to Dwayne's 13. So Justin Herbert, and he has a lot more weapons out there.
Which goes to show you that drafting Dwayne at 15 was an insane mistake.
Right. You're 100% right.
Compared to Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones had that one crazy, ridiculous run, won the championship, and
you got
drafted, and he's in XFL.
That's kind of what turns me off from Justin Fields is the fact that he's an Ohio State quarterback, and I don't want to go through it
again. That's exactly right, dude. No, I'm right there with you guys. I don't think that tanking is a legit thing. Really I think that in this league there is an integrity aspect to it and a competition level, and I think that everyone should be trying to win. If you're trying to lose in this league, you don't belong, in my opinion. I know that it's probably good for business to think ahead, but this league needs that kind of integrity to be able to stay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Now, that being said, I had something else I wanted to talk about, and I completely flustered.
The player of the year, whatever. What was it?
No. There was something else I wanted to talk about with the Trevor Lawrence fiasco, but it completely lost. It's gone. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Now, your presidential vote. Let's talk about this, baby. MVP so far this season. We have seen so many points put on the board by a bunch of quarterbacks. So let me get you guys. Let me go to you, Reed. Who is your pick for MVP right now? If we had to stop today and pick one, who would you be casting your vote for?
I'm sorry. Before we did this, I thought we meant of the Washington football team. So I wrote those down. But the entire NFL, Russell Wilson, not even a question right now. Russell Wilson is playing out of his mind. Oh my God. Just the things that he has done. It's just been nothing short of incredible. He hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. He's averaging 4 or 5 touchdown passes a game so far through the first 3 weeks. Those wide receivers out there are playing fantastic. I think that Seattle right now, if the season ended today because COVID struck the entire NFL, Russell Wilson would finally win an MVP and get some votes.
Yeah, I actually picked Russ to be my MVP in the beginning of the season. So in the long run, I think he is going to win it. But right now, 3 weeks in, I'm as good as Russell Wilson's been playing, and he's definitely been balling his ass off. I'm going to have to go with good old AA Ron because, look, going into the draft, everyone said, oh, this is a heavy wide receiver draft. They're going to get him some weapons. The Packers are going to be back to being elite. It's going to be on and popping. And then the draft came, and they didn't draft a receiver, and they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round. And people were like, But little did we know that Aaron Rodgers was going to be like, Oh, you want to draft Jordan Love, huh? Well, let me show you what good old Aaron has left in the tank. And he's been out there balling with guys that people never heard of outside of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Right. So hats off to Aaron Rodgers. He's been balling right now, so he's my MVP 3 reasons.
I think it's Pat Mahomes, dude. I mean, that guy literally dropped back and like threw a pass that like every coach that would ever coach football would tell his quarterback to never throw, and the dude just has the arm to be able to put it on a dime. In stride to be able to hit his wide receiver for a touchdown. The dude is on another level. I know.
He's unreal.
I know preseason I picked for Lamar. Oh no, I did pick for Pat Mahomes to win MVP, but I thought Lamar in Baltimore was going to win that Super Bowl. But my goodness, last night did Pat Mahomes separate himself from Lamar Jackson? I know Mark Andrews dropped a bunch of passes. I know that was a huge thing, but at times Lamar was a little inaccurate with the football. But it showed you that Kansas City's offense plays so much at a high level that the Ravens style of offense cannot keep up.
Right. Can I drop another name into the hat? Somebody that should 100% be on
Terry
the ballot?
McLaurin?
No, Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is playing fantastic, dude. He is playing amazing. He's literally beginning to fix his flaws. Like, he was never accurate whatsoever. And he's all of a sudden he's dropping some dimes. I mean, his completion percentage isn't terribly high, but he's making some fantastic plays, and he's single-handedly leading this Buffalo offense and making everything easier. And by the way, real quick about Russell Wilson, I think going into week 3, he had thrown more touchdowns than he had incompletions.
Yeah, I think I did see that, which is insane.
He actually does have one interception, but it was like completely, literally not his fault at all. It just went through the butterfingers of Greg.
That just happened this past week.
I think I watched that happen.
Yeah, he was literally just butterfingers.
That's right. It was Greg Olsen. It went right through his hands, and then that was early in the game too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Russ is balling. They finally let Russ cook. Yeah, he's definitely out there cooking.
I hope so. Nobody deserves the MVP in the NFL more than that guy, man. Just like in terms of somebody who hasn't won it.
Oh, okay. Now I remember what I was gonna say. I'm sorry. To bring this back to the Washington football team, there's a lot being said about Ron Rivera not calling those timeouts. You know what I mean? But there is something that the quarterback position is supposed to bring to the table to the team, and that is your quarterback. You are supposed to believe in your quarterback to be able to do everything he can to be able to bring you back in that football game.
Right.
You always believe your quarterback's going to give you a chance. And every quarterback in this league, you could say, for the most part, their team believes in him. With Dwayne, I do not have one lick of that confidence, which is why Ron Rivera has not called those timeouts. He legitimately says he's not good enough to get it done. I'm glad
you brought that up, because I'm going to go on the other side of things where people are like up in arms about, we're trying to instill a new culture of not giving up and fighting to the last whistle, blah, blah, blah. You don't think that people don't know in the locker room, Ron Rivera is all about fighting to the end and tough-nosed, hard-nosed football?
He's playing with cancer. He's coaching with cancer.
Exactly. So for me, it's just like, if they go out there, he trots them out there with 5 minutes left, down by 2 scores, tries to get some more points. All of a sudden, another lineman goes down. God forbid, Terry goes down. And then he's going to be getting eviscerated by the media on, why did you have him out there? The game was over, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like the media just wants clickbait. They have a job to do, obviously. So that kind of blew me when everyone was talking about that.
It's a combination of both of those things. I think if he had a quarterback he believed in, maybe he would be able to risk some of that injury. But since he doesn't, he's just like, fuck, it's no point. I'm not going to – you also kind of get the sense that that's where he's been at all season. Like with Chase Young, him keeping him out of training camp with that hip flexor for a very long time. Chase, I saw one report that said 2 to 3 weeks that he'll be out. I think it's probably Rivera just being like, look, we're going to be overly cautious because you're not going to have anything that's going to affect you long term. We're going to linger. So I don't know.
He was back on the sidelines dabbing people up, right?
Yeah, he was fine.
That is a legit and a great
point. Same thing with Matt Ionitis.
Because with Ron Rivera, I understand it's been the last 2 games, but if I'm Ron Rivera, if I'm looking at this at a 16-game scale, what looks like to me right now is that the healthiest team at the end of the year is going to be the best. And with all of these injuries that are transpiring right now, when you just lost Matt Ionitis for the season, you don't know what's going on with Chase Young. There is no reason to strut your guys back out there. You're already without Brandon Sheriff. You're not good enough to deal with another injury, and your offense is not good enough to be able to bring you back in this game. I understand it's the NFL, and anything can happen. But that team, that offense did not show him any confidence, did not give him any confidence that game they could go down the field and score twice to bring them back. in my opinion.
Exactly.
Which sucks to say. Look, I love my team, but there's a reality here, and that reality, it feels like an anchor on the offense. And I felt the same exact way in 2014 with Kirk Cousins and RG3. That Jaguars game, RG3 gets injured. Guess what? Kirk Cousins comes in, the Washington football team puts up almost 40 points. Felt like that anchor got released, and all of a sudden that offense is doing well. I don't think it's going to happen with Kyle Allen, though, Mike. I don't think that. I'm just saying the accuracy is like the problem.
Nah, yeah, 100%.
And like I just feel like it's like those small, they always say the devil's in the details, right? That's always what Gene says. The devil's in the details. And so it's those small, minute things that possibly he could be better at. That being said, I think Nick was absolutely right with what we talked about Morgan Moses. Just being there is probably great because my uncle loves to say, we work construction. And the one thing we always say, 90% of the job is being there.
Oh, the best ability is availability.
Yeah, 90%
He
of the
literally
job
told
is
me in
being
the
there.
interview, he was like, I need 3 things of you. Number 1, just show up. Number 2, please, God, just show up. And number 3, don't fuck yourself up on the job.
Hey, but it's honest, and that's what Morgan is continuing to battle it out, and I think that he deserves the captain patch now that Sheriff is out for the season. I'm gonna be honest with you.
And shout out to Morgan Moses too. When we talked to him, he worked his ass off and said he was going to turn it around this year, and he has so far. He's played very well. I've been super impressed by him.
Yeah, and biggest takeaways from the overall NFL over the weekend.
My biggest takeaway is Chiefs look like they're on the way to be a two-peat, a double back-to-back champion because, like you just mentioned, it was kind of going down to the Chiefs versus the Ravens in the AFC Championship, and it just looks like the Chiefs are just separating themselves offensively-wise, where it's like, I think I just saw this stat earlier where Patrick Mahomes is 28-1 when his team scores over, when his defense gives up more or less than 28 points, or pretty much 28 points. So for that offense to have a threshold, that defense to have a threshold of 28 points, you're telling me, hey, you give up 4 touchdowns.
Pretty big safety net.
Yeah. give up 4 touchdowns, it's all good. I'll score 5 or 6. So that's just crazy to me. So my biggest takeaway is the Chiefs are just on a whole other level than the rest of the NFL.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're lucky to score 1 offensive touchdown a game, and that's but for me, it's about the not having a preseason and how you can really tell the teams that have been together for a long time, like the Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints, the Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs.
Leadership.
But they're continuing to roll. They don't need that adjustment period. That and then some of these new, just very talented players that have joined new teams that are just sticking out. Like Robbie Anderson was always so underutilized, but he's so talented, like naturally talented. He has it all, and he's being utilized. And it's just he's just using his athleticism against guys.
DeAndre Hopkins falling out.
DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, that's exactly. The Jets are the Redskins of the AFC.
Yeah, so Adam Gase should be fired by
on
Friday.
There's actually a report that literally says that if he doesn't beat the 3rd string quarterback of the Broncos, he's going to be fired.
Yeah, if he doesn't beat Brett Rippon, by the way.
People are going to be like, we should have kept him. We should have drafted him.
I know, yeah. Should have kept the Rippon lineage going.
Right, absolutely. And then, the Jets are an absolute dumpster fire. They're horrible. The Eagles are absolutely terrible. I had another one and it completely lost my mind. Of course, it went away. But that being said, thank you so much to Nick Akridge for stopping by from Pro Football Focus. It gave us a little more insight into the football team. That way, we were able to gauge a little bit more where this team is and where they can be. That being said, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm Kyle.
I am going to go walk my dog because he's like blowing my life right now.
I'm running on about 3 hours of sleep over the last 4 days, and that behind me, see that bar? That's how much I bench.
Ridiculous. All right, everybody, go like and share our page on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We are everywhere, everybody. We love you guys. Check us out on Thursday. Make sure you check us out then. We'll be live again on 6 o'clock, and we'll have a fresh episode ready for you, pre-gaming and previewing the showdown this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. All right, everybody. Washington football.